Today we're talking about the Tamron 35mm F2.8, a full-frame E Mount lens for Sony. It's one of a trio of new prime lenses that Tamron has just brought out. There's a 35, a 24, and a 20, which are all F2.8. The big thing about this lens is not its size actually, which is normally quite important, apparently. The big thing about this little lens is its cost, $349 US, or about 450, 460 Canadian, depending on how bad the exchange rate is. 35mm is a very popular focal length, maybe not for vlogging, unless you want to go full monopod. Which, I mean, you can do, it does work. You look a little bit ridiculous, but it works if you want to do it that way. But it is going to be a good lens for portraits, as well as street photographers like to use the 35mm focal length as well. Hear my dog? That means there's a package here. All right, so this guy just turned up. I think I know what it is, but we may as well open up and take a look. Let's see what we got. Aha! Another little lens that Sigma has sent me to review. This is the 14-24 f2.8. I'm actually quite excited to use this for real estate work. Something else in here as well. Today's video is sponsored by Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning platform for creators. They have over 25,000 courses. And remember how I said this lens would be good for street photography? Well, you guessed it, Skillshare has courses on street photography. A premium membership with Skillshare gives you unlimited access, so you can use it whenever you want to for whatever you want to. And because Skillshare is sponsoring today's video, you can click that link down below and that will give you 2 months for free, so you can go ahead and learn anything you want, anything that Skillshare has, video editing, lighting, how to shoot street photos, anything you want. By using that link down below, you'll get 2 months for free. After that, Skillshare does work out to be super affordable. An annual subscription is less than $10 a month. Thank you again to Skillshare for sponsoring this channel and allowing me to pay the bills and continue to make these kinds of videos. All right, bills are paid. Back to the Tamron 35 f2.8. In terms of build quality of this lens, it's made very similar to the Tamron 17-28 and the 28-75, with the exterior construction of this mostly made of plastic. I'd definitely say it feels a little bit cheaper than other Tamron lenses that I've used before. Although it's the same construction, it just doesn't really have the same weight to it. This actually comes in at 210 grams, which is incredibly light. By comparison, the 30mm f1.4 from Sigma, an APS-C lens, is 260 grams. So it's quite a light one. Another comparison for you, compared to the little kit lens, this is 116 grams. So this is pretty much 100 grams more. And this is a light little dinky lens. In terms of actual size, it's quite a short and stubby little lens compared to the 30mm f1.4, which is quite long and thin. That's all personal preference, to be honest with you. Some like it short and stubby, some quite like it long and thin. One thing you may not be aware of is Tamron is actually making the filter thread for all of their lenses the same size. So right now, all of the Sony E Mount Tamron lenses, all three of the primes, the 17-28 and the 28-75, they're all 67mm filter threads. So that's nice. You can buy one really good filter and then use it on all of your lenses. Although it's lightweight and feels cheaper, I actually quite enjoy having it on the A7 III. It's a really compact setup, as you can see there. It doesn't really add a huge amount of size to the front of the camera, and it's quite conspicuous. So if you did want to shoot street photography, it's going to be a good lens for doing that. I actually quite like that it's not very front heavy as well, and the weight is now in the camera body, opposed to some other full frame lenses where you put it on the A7 III and it just becomes a front heavy system. It's all the weight's now in the back of the camera, so it just feels really good attached to the A7 III. I haven't seen anywhere that it's officially stated as being a weather sealed lens, but it does have moisture resistant construction, which is words directly from Tamron's website. There is a little rubber gasket around the outside there, so technically that is a form of water resistant construction, if you want to call it that. It also has what Tamron is calling a dirt resistant fluorine coating, whatever that means, but it has it. You may have noticed already, but the lens hood is very odd. It has a squarer or more rectangular shape there, and it looks like it's on backwards, but that's just the way it is. That's just the design that they opted to go for. It's almost anamorphic looking. There's an anamorphic lens. This is the Siru 50mm f1.8. There's a video coming on this soon, but you can see they've kind of gone for that anamorphic look with the lens hood there. I wonder if there's any benefit to having a rectangular lens hood on there. I'm not too sure. If you know the answer, pop a comment down below. Sharpness for this lens is actually pretty great. For a $500 lens, it performed way better than I thought it would. It's not Sigma 35mm f1.2 sharp, but it's also a lens that costs a quarter of the cost of that lens. Here's a little test I like to do with a brick wall, just to show how the sharpness changes from f2.8 to f4 to f8 f11, and finally f16. So you should be able to see a little change there, and the higher up we get with the aperture, the sharper the image gets. At f2.8 wide open, it is still relatively sharp, and if you're looking at shooting nice, creamy, background separated, bokeh-y, buttery, smooth, whatever else we can call it, portraits, then you're going to be able to do that and still have nice sharpness. Here's a little portrait I took of myself, just to show you sharpness. Let's go right into my eye there. And by comparison, just for fun, let's compare it to the Sigma 35mm F1.2. Autofocus is not the quickest in the world. I will tell you that completely honestly and up front. It's definitely not Sony native lens fast. It's not bad. From my experience, it does hunt a little bit now and then, not all the time, but in lower light environments, it does tend to struggle. Once it's locked on, it is accurate, but it does have a few issues here and there. Here's a few tests for you to show the autofocus speed and accuracy. Right, so we're at f2.8, 1/250th of a second, because I don't have an ND filter on right now, and I don't care. ISO is 100, shooting in 4K. Just doing some autofocus tests. Don't imagine it's going to get me this close, but this lens does have okay macro abilities. So we'll see, I guess. Not right now, because I don't have a flip screen. But we'll see later on in the edit. Because I've got external audio recording here as well, you're not going to pick up any of the sound that the lens makes when it's autofocusing, because it is quite loud. So some more autofocus tests for you. So we're at f2.8. And yes, I am not using an ND filter. We're at 1/250th of a second. ISO is currently set to auto. All I'm caring about is my autofocus. And you probably can't hear it because I have external audio being recorded, but it's clunky and loud. Sometimes it's a lot quicker than others. See, that was slower, but a second ago it was quicker. Focus settings is set to wide on continuous. Coop, what's this? What is it? This lens does suffer from a pretty bad autofocus noise. It's a clicking noise. It also sounds like sometimes there's like dirt in the lens there, which is kind of odd. Mine definitely doesn't have any dirt in it, but it sounds like it does. Let's actually throw the clicking sound of this over the top of me talking right now so you can hear exactly what I mean. So imagine I had a mic on top of the camera, I was using the 35mm. This is what it's going to sound like. And I'm going to guess you probably don't want that. So you're going to want to use audio recorded externally from a lapel mic or something like that. So now I have my external audio right next to the lens, and we're going to see how it sounds so you can hear. The manual focus ring of this feels quite loose, maybe a little looser to the 17-28 and 28-75. I don't own those anymore. I did own those and sold them, so I can't directly compare it, but from what I remember, it feels similar, but maybe a little bit looser. It is focused by wire, meaning there's nothing physically moving in here, it's just an electronic focus. It also suffers from a pretty bad focus acceleration. What that means is if you turn the focus ring slowly, the focus throw, the amount you turn it to get in and out of focus is going to be pretty large. However, if you turn it quickly, it's going to focus a lot quicker and the focus throw is going to be a lot smaller. You might think that that's a good thing, but the problem with focus acceleration is, you know how after a while with a lens, normally you get used to how much you need to turn it to be in focus or out of focus. It's really going to be hard to do that with this lens because the faster you turn it or the slower you turn it, it's never the same focusing experience, at least from what I've been using. And I've been using this now for what, probably a month, and it doesn't get any easier. So something to be aware of. Also, if you are in manual focus mode or pulling focus manually, it suffers from that same clicky noise. Also sounds, again, like there's sand in the lens. And again, I assure you there is not. I think it's just a design feature and it's probably one of the ways they managed to keep the cost down to $350 US for this lens. Let's just talk briefly about macro for this lens because depending on the website you go to or wherever you look at this lens, some market it as being a macro lens and some do not. Technically, Tamron does say that you can use it for macro. The minimum focusing distance of this is 15 centimeters or 6 inches. That's pretty average, so I hear. Actually, it's a little bit better than average for this lens. So you can get quite close to things, which allows you to take those macro shots. This lens has a maximum magnification ratio of 1:2. So what that means is whatever you take a picture of, the sensor is going to record it at half its actual size. If it was a 1:1 magnification, what that would mean is the sensor is capturing whatever you're taking that photo of at actual size. I don't take a ton of macro shots. I don't have a huge amount of experience with them. I play around with them now and then, but this is quite nice to use for some basic product shots. Here's some images I've shot with this lens. So the cost of this lens is obviously the big appeal at $349. Who is it for and should you buy it? I think this is a great lens for anyone looking at picking up a cheap prime 35mm lens. If you don't own a 35mm like I didn't, then this is going to be a great little option for you to get you into the world of shooting 35mm. Since using the Sigma 35mm f1.2, I realized I actually really like this focal length, and that's why I picked this up for myself. I would say due to the focusing issues that it does have, especially that sound and the accuracy sometimes, I don't know if I would use this for professional work. It just doesn't have the same reliability that some other lenses use. Now, my opinion might change in 6 months' time, and if it does, I'll let you know. But right now, I don't know if I would rely on it entirely for professional work. I think I'd opt for a different lens instead. Street photographers, general family shots, even basic portraits, this is going to be a good lens. It's going to work fine. For video, if you're using this and it's set to manual focus, it's a static shot, you have your focus all locked off, ready to go. Again, it's going to work great. You're gonna get a little bit of background separation. The sharpness is pretty good. For a $350 35mm video lens, I don't think you can go wrong. I would just say be very cautious of using it for autofocus if you're thinking of using it for that. So for $349, this is definitely a budget, and we can call it a budget prime lens. At that cost, we normally see shortcomings, things aren't great, and I'd say that's exactly what we've seen here. Autofocus issues, the autofocus sound, the build quality isn't up there with some other ones, but overall for $349, you aren't really going to be disappointed. You can spend $349 on plenty of other lenses out there, and you're not going to get anywhere near the sharpness that you would with this lens. So pretty solid lens for 350 bucks. I appreciate you watching today's video. If you have any questions about this lens, or you want to pick it up, there'll be a link down below. It's not available everywhere yet. In the States, it seems to be more available than it is in Canada, but I had to import this from B&H. Nowhere in Canada, I almost dropped that then, did you see that? Nowhere in Canada has this lens available for sale yet, but I'll update the Amazon links when they become available down below. Appreciate you watching today. You know what to do down below. You can click on those things if you want to. I'm not going to force you, but if you want to see videos like this, you want to watch a ton of previous videos, or you want to see my review of the 14-28 to come, I'm actually going to compare this quite significantly to the 16-35, and I think I'm going to focus on real estate and how 14 versus 16 is actually a bigger difference than you think. So if you want to see that, you're going to have to subscribe, or just search for that video in like 3 weeks, 4 weeks, probably closer to 4 weeks time. All right, that's that. I got nothing else to say. I'll see you in the next one.